All of us have a seed of fear deep in our consciousness, but we do not want to be aware of it, and we try to cover it up with many layers of mental formations. And we try to be busy, we try to forget that there is a block of fear within. It is possible to get in touch with the fear inside, to recognize it and to transform it. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. I'm breathing in and breathing out. I'm aware that there is a seed of fear about getting old. And you recognize the fact that the seed of fear is there. You are afraid of getting old. And you pretend to believe that you will be young forever. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. I am the nature to get sick. I cannot escape sickness. Just recognize the truth and allow the fear in you to be recognized. I am the nature to die. I cannot escape dying. Everyone I cherish today, everything I treasure today, I will have to let go one day. The fear of losing what you cherish, who you cherish. And when I go, I cannot bring anything with me. My possessions, my fame, my wealth, my power. What I can bring with me is only the result of my action. The thought I have produced, the speech I have produced, the physical action I have done, which bear my signature, that's the only thing I can bring with me. Nothing else. And this is the traditional practice in the Buddhist tradition. Not only monks, nuns, but other practitioners also do it because they don't want to cover up their fear. They want to confront, recognize the fear within. And there is a way to transform the fear. Fear and despair ruin our happiness. That is why to recognize our fear, our despair, and to transform it is essential for being truly happy. It is possible for us to live happily and to die happily also if we practice looking deeply and touch our true nature. To die happily, is it possible? To die peacefully and happily, this is something possible. And there have been people who are capable of doing that. In Christianity, we speak of salvation by grace. In Buddhism, they speak about salvation by understanding. When you get great understanding, you are free from your fear, from your despair. And maybe grace is understanding itself. If you are from the Christian background, you might like to look at your notion of grace and understand it in the light of great understanding and insight. they might be the same. Great understanding in the Buddhist tradition is described as the mother of all Buddhas. All Buddhas are born from that mother, great understanding. And it is a conviction that every one of us can become a Buddha. We are Buddha to be. Every time we have, we are mindful, we are compassionate, we are understanding, we are a Buddha. But we are only part-time Buddhas. Because there are times when there is no understanding, no compassion, no mindfulness in us. And it is possible for us to become full-time Buddhas if we know how to live our life mindfully. If you have enough time, if you can arrange so that we can live our daily life mindfully, and then we have a lot of concentration and living deeply every moment of our daily life, we can get in touch with life deeply, and by doing so we can get deep understanding of what is there, including us and life around us. When you look deeply, we can discover things that others who are so busy cannot see. Suppose we look at a cloud and we ask the question as whether a cloud can die. Let us think about the death of a cloud. Is it possible for a cloud to die? When a cloud is transformed into rain, it's not exactly dying. It is a transformation. It is a continuation. It is impossible for a cloud to die. It is impossible for you as a human being to die. The disintegration of this body, of these feelings and perceptions, cannot be described as death. A cloud can only become rain or snow or ice. A cloud cannot become nothing. In our mind, to die means from something you become nothing. From someone you become no one. That's our notion of death. But that notion cannot be applied to reality. Nothing can become nothing. A cloud can never die. A cloud can only be transformed into ice or snow or rain. And the same thing is true with the birth of a cloud. Has the cloud come from nothing? And if we look deeply, we see that a cloud has not come from nothing. Before being a cloud, it has been other things, like the water, the heat, and so on. So the moment we call birth, the birth of the cloud, is only a moment of continuation. A cloud has not come from nothing. A cloud is a continuation of something. It's like this sheet of paper. When I look deeply into the sheet of paper, I see a tree, I see a forest. And the forest, the tree, is actually now in the sheet of paper. If you remove the element tree out, if you remove the element tree, forest, from this sheet of paper, another paper would not be there for you. When you look at this a sheet of paper deeply, you can see a cloud. I can touch a cloud in a sheet of paper. And you don't have to be a poet in order to see a cloud floating in the paper. You know that without a cloud, there will be no rain and no trees can grow. That is why it is possible for you to see a cloud in the piece of paper. If you remove the element cloud from the paper cannot be there for you. And the sunshine. Can you see the sunshine in the sheet of paper? Without sunshine, no trees would be able to grow. And that is why touching the sheet of paper, I touch the sunshine. It's very nice. And I can touch many other elements within a sheet of paper, like the earth, the soil, the minerals. Without these things, a tree cannot grow. And the paper mill and the workers who work at the paper mill, they are all here. So before the paper manifests itself as a sheet of paper, it had been many things. And a sheet of paper has not come from nothing. And that is why the true nature of the paper is a nature of no birth. And when I burn this sheet of paper, the sheet of paper will not become nothing. If you observe the burning, you see that this is a moment of transformation. When I burn this sheet of paper, I produce the heat that penetrates into me, into you, and into the cosmos. I produce the smoke that will join a cloud. I produce the ash that may become a blade of grass in the future. So the so-called death of the paper is just a continuation. A sheet of paper can never die, because our notion of death is that from something you become absolutely nothing. From someone you become absolutely no one. So our notion of birth and death are just notions. They cannot be applied to reality. The French scientist Lavoisier said that nothing is created, nothing dies. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd. He was not a Buddhist at all. He was just a scientist trying to look deeply into the nature of things, and he discovered the same thing. The true nature of reality is the nature of no birth and no death. And if we can surmount, we can transcend, if you can remove the notion of birth and death, and then fear will not be there. We transcend the fear that we have. Fear, despair are products of our wrong perceptions, from our notions, including notions of birth and death. It would be a pity if we are so busy to have the time to practice looking deeply. When you look into a flower, you might have a chance to touch the true nature of a flower, the nature of no birth and no death. Suppose we look together deeply into this box of matches. And this is to help a flame to manifest. If you are a practitioner, you should be able to see the flame before it manifests itself, because the flame is hidden somewhere in its conditions. All conditions for the manifestation of the flame is already there, inside of the box and also outside of the box. We know very well that there is oxygen in the air, and without oxygen, a flame can never manifest itself. That's why not only the flame is hidden inside a matchbox, but it's also hidden outside of matchbox. Looking deeply, you can see that the flame is always there, waiting for another condition to manifest. And that condition is the movement of my fingers. So we can talk to the flame. My dear little flame, I know you are there. And I invite you to manifest. And the flame said, Thầy, help me to manifest. I only need one more condition, a movement of your fingers. Flame, manifest yourself. And then you see the flame manifest. And then you might like to ask, my dear little flame, where have you come from? And if you listen deeply, you can hear the answer of the flame. Dear Thầy, dear community, I have come from nowhere. I have not come from the south. I have not come from the north. I have not come from the west. I have not come from the east. When conditions are sufficient, I manifest myself. My nature, my true nature, is the nature of no coming. Where have you come from? That is a traditional question in the field of philosophy, metaphysics. And if you listen to the flame, you see the answer. The nature of reality is the nature of no coming. And now, as we don't see the manifestation of the flame anymore, we may like to ask the flame, my dear little flame, where have you gone? And then if you listen deeply with concentration and mindfulness, you hear this. Dear Thầy, dear Sangha, I have gone nowhere. I have not gone to the south, not to the north, not to the east, not to the west. I have gone nowhere. When conditions are no longer sufficient, I just stop my manifestation and wait. And this is the truth also. And that is why the nature of reality is the nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going. If you have lost a person who was so close to you, you are invited to look deeply into her nature, his nature. You have believed that she is no longer there. From someone, she has become no one. She has gone somewhere. She has come to you as a manifestation, and she's gone somewhere. But if you practice looking deeply, you see that she is always there, maybe very close to you, and you recognize her at all because you are caught in the form of a manifestation. If you are attached to a particular cloud, there are many clouds in the sky, and you may be especially attached to one of them. And when that cloud has become rain, and you cry, you said, oh, my beautiful cloud, you are no longer there. But your beautiful cloud is still there. It is new manifestation. The rain, the snow, and calling to you, dear one, don't you see me here? Please smile to me. And because you don't have the eyes of understanding, you cannot recognize her, your beloved cloud, and you continue to be the victim of your own grief. That is why great understanding helps you to liberate yourself from your grief, your despair, your sorrow. When you practice breathing in and see yourself as a 5-year-old child, you touch the 5-year-old child in you. Do you think that the 5-year-old child in you is dead? is no longer there. No. When you breathe in and get in touch with your father as a 5-year-old child, do you think that the 5-year-old child that was your father is still there? Or has already died? If you compare the picture of you taken yesterday and the picture they took of you when you were 5, if you compare the two pictures, you see a big difference. You might think that the 5-year-old boy or girl has died in order for the 30-year-old lady or gentleman to be born today. What is the connection between you as a 5-year-old child and you as you are now? Are you the same person with him or her? Or are you a different person with him or her? There is a belief that we are always the same person, whether we are 5 or 10 or 20 or 80. And that is a wrong view. Scientifically, we can see that the cells that were there when you were 5-year-old are not the same as the cells that are now in your body. Every day, so many cells disappear in order to make place for other cells to be born. And your body is like a river, always flowing. And we know that no one can take a swim twice in the same river, because the water would not be the same. Looking at the river, we have the impression that the river is always the same, whether that is the Mississippi River or another river. So our perception that the river is the same river is not correct. But if you say that this is not the same river, this is another river, that is also a wrong perception. That is why it's very important to look deeply in order to see that you, as you are now, and you as you were when you were 5-year-old, both of you share the nature of not being the same, not being two different entities. When you say, I am the same with that 5-year-old girl, I am the same person with that 5-year-old boy, that is a wrong perception. That is a wrong perception. But when you say, I'm totally a different person than the 5-year-old child, that is also a wrong perception. And if you look deeply, you discover your true nature, the nature of neither the same nor two different entities. Let me invite the flame to manifest again. Now I would like to use a candle in order to create a second flame. Can you tell me that these are two flames, two different flames, or they are just one flame? I have another candle, and I can help a third flame to manifest. And you are invited to tell me whether these are three flames, different, completely different from each other, or they are exactly the same flame? The answer is easy. They are neither the same nor three different flames. That is the true nature of reality. Suppose we don't use a second candle, we just keep one, and we allow the flame to continue. Suppose we leave this candle in the hall and we go out for 1 hour of walking meditation. And when we come back, we can still see the same flame. But are you sure that it is the same flame as the one hour ago? Because the flame is fed by the wax, by the oxygen. And we can say that the life of a flame is only lasts in one instant. And it will be succeeded by another flame. And there is a succession of flames that give us the illusion that this is the same flame always. You can see the flame joining a cloud, and you should be able to recognize the flame as part of the cloud. When you film something, when you film a dancer, someone dancing, you record many images of that dancer. And when you project the film, you have the impression that there is one person dancing. But you know very well that in the film there is a series of pictures succeeding each other. It's the same with the flame. You can say that the life of a flame only lasts for 1 second or less. Nothing can remain the same in 2 consecutive moments. And you can see the nature of impermanence in the flame, and you can see that the flame, although she continues, she is not always the same flame, but she is not totally another flame either. So that nature of neither the same nor 2 different entities is very important. Suppose someone standing in the dark, holding a torch, and draw a circle of fire with the torch. And very quickly, suppose you are standing far away, you don't see the person, you don't see the flame of the torch, you see a circle of fire. And you say that there is a circle of fire there. But there is no circle of fire at all. There is only a torch that moves very quickly, that gives the impression that there is a fire circle. The same thing is true with the flame. The same thing is true with the candle. The same thing is true with the cloud. The same thing is true with me and with you. There are 5 rivers in us. The rivers of form, the river of feelings, the river of perceptions, the river of mental formations, and the river of consciousness. The 5 rivers always flowing day and night. And when you wake up in the morning, you are not exactly the same person with you who had gone to sleep about 8 hours ago. It's very important to practice looking deeply and to touch our true nature, the nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, neither the same nor 2 different entities. when you look into your son or your daughter, look in such a way that you can touch his or her true nature. Is your son an entirely different person than you? Or he is the same person with you? And these two answers are wrong. You are not the same person with your son, but you are not a different person, totally different from your son. Your son is your continuation. Your son is you. Before the birth, the so-called birth of your son had been in you somehow. He had waited in order to manifest. And you, your true nature is also the nature of neither the same nor different, because you are not the same with the 5-year-old boy that you had been, but you are not a totally different person with the 5-year-old boy. And that is why before the manifestation of your son, your nature had already been the nature of neither the same nor two different entities. And if you get that kind of wisdom, you see that your son is a continuation, your continuation, and your son carries you within him. Your daughter carries you within her. And your thinking, your speech, and your action will be closer to reality, and you will not make mistakes that give rise to separation, discrimination, anger, and despair. Great understanding liberates us from despair, from anger, from frustration. Before you were born from your father and your mother, had you existed? It's true that from no one you suddenly become someone. And what is your birth date exactly? Everyone has a birth certificate indicating the hour, the day, the month, and the year. And we believe that we begin to exist from that moment. That's not correct. You qualify yourself from that moment on as a being, and before that moment as non-being. And you believe that from non-being you become being. This is a wrong perception. Let us draw a line representing time, flowing in this direction. And let us mark this point as B, birth. This is a moment when you are born. And you believe that from this moment on, you are. You exist. And we can then describe you as being. And from this point back, you did not exist. And they qualify you as non-being. And you believe in a very naive way that from non-being you can become being. And then you imagine there is a moment called death. And when you come to that moment, you become non-being again. That is the way we think. And that is not right thinking. And wrong thinking gives rise to a lot of fear, a lot of confusion, a lot of despair, a lot of anger. We have seen that before the flame manifests itself, it had been there somehow in its condition. It only waits for another condition to manifest. So before its manifestation, we could not qualify it as non-being, non-existing. And after the flame stops its manifestation, well, its conditions are still there. And it can remanifest itself at any time if conditions are sufficient again. So you cannot qualify the time before manifestation as the time of non-being, and the time after manifestation as the time of being. Because being and non-being are a pair of ideas that go always together. If you come to Plum Village for a visit in the month of July, you see beautiful sunflowers field. And walking meditation among the fields of sunflowers is so beautiful, so pleasant. But if you come in early May, you don't see any sunflowers. But you don't know that the sunflowers are already there in its condition. By early May, the farmers have already plowed the land and planted the seeds. Everything is done. There's only one last condition for the sunflowers to manifest, is the heat of June and July. A farmer walking along his field in early May can already see the sunflowers. But you as a visitor, because you don't see the manifestation of the sunflowers, you qualify the sunflowers as non-existing, as non-being. That's not correct. When conditions are sufficient, something manifests and you qualify it as being. And when conditions are no longer sufficient, something stops manifestation and you qualify it as non-being. That is a wrong perception. That is a wrong thinking. Reality cannot be described in terms of being and non-being. There are theologians who describe God as the ground of being. Theologians like Paul Tillich, he described God as the ground of being. I'd like to ask him, if God is the ground of being, and who will be the ground of non-being? Being and non-being are notions created by our own mind. Reality, the ultimate reality, is free from these two notions. And the notions of birth, death, coming, going, same, different. If you are still caught in these four pairs of notions, you are not capable of touching the ultimate reality by itself. The notion of birth, the notion of death, the notion of coming, the notion of going, the notion of sin, the notion of difference, the notion of being, and the notion of non-being. Lavoisier, that French scientist, he was looking deeply into the nature of energy and matter. Energy extremely concentrated become matter, and matter extremely diluted become energy. And when you see that, you can touch the nature of no birth and no death, of both energy and matter. And you are free from the notion of birth and death. And that is why Lavoisier declared that there is no birth, there is no death. Nothing is created, nothing die. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd. He used exactly the same terms that Avalokiteshvara used in the Heart Sutra. No production, no destruction. So the true nature of reality is the nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, not the same, neither the same, nor difference, no being, neither being nor non-being. Neither the same nor the difference. The notion of being is not possible without the notion of non-being, because they are a pair of concepts, of notions, like the idea of left and right. If there is a right, there must be left. If you are politically on the left, you should not wish for the non-existence of the right. Because if the right is not there, you cannot have the left. So to be caught in the notion of being, you lose reality. To be caught in the notion of non-being, you lose reality. Observing deeply, you can touch the nature of reality, which is the nature of neither being nor non-being. The notion of being or non-being cannot contain, cannot express, cannot be applied to the truth. Reality transcends the notion of being and non-being. And therefore, to be or not to be, that's not the real question. Intellectually, these things are not difficult to understand. But great understanding is the kind of insight that helps us to always nourish that awareness. There are those of us who know exactly and who agree that everything is impermanent. We have no problem with accepting impermanence as a reality. But that is only for the intellect. In our real life, we still live in such a way that reveals that we don't have the insight of impermanence. And that is why the practice is to be mindful, to maintain the insight of impermanence alive in every moment. And when you get in touch with something, you are capable of seeing its nature of impermanence. When you look into a cloud, you see the nature of impermanence of the cloud. And you know that the cloud can be transformed into rain at any moment. When you look into the person of your beloved one, you are aware that she is impermanent, and you are also impermanent. And that insight of impermanence helps you to know that anything you can do to make her happy today, you have to do it. Waiting for tomorrow may be too late. If reality is not impermanent, and then your little daughter can never grow into a beautiful young lady. Impermanence is not a pessimistic note. Impermanence makes life possible. If the grain of corn is not impermanent, it cannot become a young plant of corn. If the young plant of corn is not impermanent, it cannot become a big plant of corn and give you ears of corn to eat. That is why impermanence is very essential to life. And instead of complaining about impermanence, you have to say, long live impermanence. And if you touch deeply the truth of impermanence, you touch the truth of no coming, no going, no birth, no death. Neither the same nor different. The key of impermanence can unlock the door of reality, helping you to touch the true nature of reality, the nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going. But that is not the discussion, the speculation about impermanence. That is the samadhi, the concentration on impermanence that helps you to do so. You live mindfully so that the insight of impermanence stay with you all the time. And wherever you hear something, you touch something, you look at something, you can always touch the nature of impermanence in what you hear, you see, and you touch. And you become a free person, free from fear, free from despair. The Buddha had many disciples as monastics, but he also had many disciples as lay people. Among his lay disciples, there is a very rich businessman. His name is Sudatta. But because people in his city love him so much, they gave him the name of Anathapindika. People like Anathapindika are so rare, extremely rich and extremely happy. To see a happy, wealthy person is very rare. Anathapindika had a very generous heart. Before he met the Buddha and considered him as a teacher, he had been already a very generous person. He spent a lot of his energy and time and money to help the destitute people in his country, the children, the poor, the destitute. And he took a great deal of pleasure in helping them. That is why the population of his country had given him the name Anathapindika, the one who helps the destitute people. He used to go to the kingdom of Magadha to do business. He had a brother-in-law living there. And every time he came to the city of Rajagraha, he always stayed in the house of his brother-in-law. His hometown is Shravasti, the kingdom of Kosala in the north. And Magadha, the city of Rajagraha, is south of the Ganges River. That time when he came to the city of Rajagraha, his brother did not seem to take good care of him. He was very busy organizing something. He was surprised. He said, "You are inviting the king to your home?" And his brother-in-law said, "No, I'm not inviting the king. I'm inviting the Buddha. That is why my family is busy cleaning the house, preparing the meal to offer to the Buddha and some of his monks." And when Anathapindika heard the word Buddha, he was impressed. Buddha, the awakened person, who is he? And he was very interested in knowing the Buddha. And he couldn't wait. That is why in the early morning he set out in order to go to the bamboo grove in order to see the Buddha. And at that time, it was very early in the morning, it's about 5 in the morning, and he met the Buddha doing walking meditation outside. He had a good talk about Buddha. And he was so impressed that he wanted to invite the Buddha to come to his city to share the teaching and the practice. It's him who offered the Buddha a beautiful grove for a practice center for the Buddha and his monks in his home city, Sravasti. And his family was a happy family because his wife and 3 children also enjoyed the teaching and the practice offered by the Buddha. He took great pleasure in supporting the community of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. There was one year when he, as a wealthy businessman, he went bankruptcy. He did not have enough to eat in his family. But he did not suffer, because before that he has created so many friends that when he got into the difficulties, his friend always came and helped him out. So he did not suffer at all, even during his time of bankruptcy. He was able to continue helping the people in his country and supporting the community of the Buddha for many decades. One day the Buddha learned that he was very sick, and the Buddha went to his home for a visit. And after that he asked his senior disciple, the monk Shariputra, to take care of Anathapindika and help him to die peacefully. Shariputra was one of the brightest students of the Buddha. And he is a very close friend of Anathapindika, the lay person. One day, Shariputra learned that Anathapindika was dying. So he asked his brother, his younger brother in the Dharma, Ananda, a cousin of the Buddha, to come with him to help. When Shariputra and Ananda came, Anathapindika was very sick. He tried, but he could not sit up on his bed. He was so happy to see the 2 monks coming, but he could not sit up. Shariputra said, "Dear friend, don't try. Just lie down. We will bring a few chairs and sit close to you." After having seated, Shariputra asked this question, my dear friend, how do you feel within your body? Is the pain in your body increasing or decreasing? Anathapindika said, Venerables, it does not seem that the pain in my body is decreasing. It is increasing all the time, and I suffer so much. Shariputra said, in that case, let us practice together the recollection of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I myself and my Dharma friend, my Dharma brother, Ananda, were supporting you in this guided meditation. So he gave a guided meditation on mindful breathing, concentrated on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Shariputra was a very intelligent person. He knew that Anathapindika had taken a great deal of pleasure to serving the Buddha as a teacher, to serving the Dharma as a path of practice, and to serving the Sangha as a community of practice. That is why he wanted to help water the seed of happiness in Anathapindika. There is an exercise called recollections of the Buddha, of the Dharma, of the Sangha, and of the mindfulness trainings available in the Plum Village Chanting Book. And I believe that that Shariputra gave a guided meditation with the content exactly the same. And after about 3 or 4 minutes of guided meditation, the seed of happiness in Anathapindika were watered, and it restored a balance between the pain and the joy. Only 3 or 4 minutes, and Anathapindika was able to smile. Very good, dear friend. Let us continue our guided meditation practice. Let us breathe in and become aware that this body is not us. We are more than this body. This body is only one of the conditions for our manifestation. This body is not me. I am not caught in this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born. I will never die. First, the object of the meditation is on the 6 sense organs: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And we practice so that we will not identify ourselves with these 6 sense organs, which are only conditions for us to manifest. And then the guided meditation continue. The element water in me is not me. I am not caught in the element water. 70% of our body is made of water. Water is only one of the conditions that help us to manifest. We should not identify ourselves with water. The element of fire in me is not me. I am not caught in the element fire. The element earth in me is not me. I am not caught in the element earth. The element air in me is not me. I am not caught in the element air. The 4 elements called the 4 Bhutas, Mahabhutas: air, water, fire, and earth. We have to touch these conditions and realize that we are not these conditions, because they are only conditions to help us manifest. Like oxygen is not the flame. Then the guided meditation continues. When conditions come together sufficiently, this body manifests. It has not come from nowhere. When conditions are no longer sufficient, this body sees its manifestation. It does not go anywhere. The nature of the body is no coming, no going. Before the body manifests itself, you cannot describe it as non-being. After the body manifests itself, you cannot describe it as being. We are free from the notion of being and non-being. And guided meditation went on to bring the insight of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, no being, no non-being to the dying person. At a point, Ananda saw Anathapindika crying. Tears were rolling down his cheek. Ananda was surprised. The guided meditation seemed to be going well, but why this layperson cry? He said, "My dear friend, why do you cry? Do you regret something?" Anathapindika said, "Venerable Ananda, I don't regret anything at all." In that case, the guided meditation is not successful. No, Venerable Ananda is very successful. I practice very well. Then why are you crying? Anathapindika said, "Venerable Ananda, I cry because I am so moved. I have supported, served the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha in many decades, but I have never received and practiced such a wonderful teaching as this morning the Venerable Sariputra gave me. The teaching of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, no being, no non-being, no same, no difference." Ananda said, "Dear friend, you don't know, but that kind of teaching we monastics we receive almost every day." With a faint smile, Anathapindika said, "Dear Venerable Ananda, please go home and tell our teacher that many of us lay people are so busy in their daily life. They are not in a position to receive and practice this wonderful teaching. But please also tell the Lord that there are those of us who are not so busy, who are very capable of receiving and practicing this wonderful teaching. So please tell the Lord that He should also dispense the teaching to the lay people." The Venerable Ananda accepted his request. "I will go home and tell the Buddha and transmit your request." Anathapindika was completely satisfied. A few minutes later, he passed away with a smile, happily, peacefully. This story is recorded in a text called "The Teaching Given to the Dying Person." There are other texts also in the Tripitaka, in the collection of the Buddhist text, but this is one of the clearest. If you are someone who have the duty to accompany the dying, you might like to study the text. You might like to practice so that you can get the insights of no coming, no going, no birth and no death. If you have the energy of non-fear in you, it would be wonderful for you to be there for the person who is dying. You would know what to do in order to water the seed of happiness in him or in her, to help him or her restore the balance so that they can diminish the physical pain in them. It's always possible to water the seed of happiness in the person who is dying so that she will not suffer much and she be capable of being peaceful and happy. There was a student in Bordeaux, in France. He got the news that his mother was dying in California in a hospital, and she was in a coma. So he came to Plum Village and asked for instructions, and we told him to go to his mother, and even if his mother is still in a coma, he should talk to her. He should talk to her only about the things that can water the seed of happiness in her. So that student did exactly what he was told. He sit and talked to his mother in the hospital, and recalled the souvenir, the memories that are happy. And strangely enough, 2 hours after that, his mother came back, woke up, and the doctors were so surprised. They had done everything in order to bring her back, but without any success. Don't think that when a person in a coma, there's no way of communication. No. If you are there, fully present, fully aware, you can touch him, you can touch her, you can establish communication. You talk to her. The energy you have will touch his energy and her energy. Our sister Thich Nhat Hanh had a sister, a blood sister, who lived in California and who had received a liver transplantation. But after 3 years, she could not continue, and she was dying in a hospital. Many doctors were trying to help her, but could not help, including her own daughter, who was a doctor also. She was lying on her bed, twisting always and emitting sound of pain. And his daughter, who was a doctor, did not know how to do to help her to be calm in the last moments of her life. Sister Thich Nhat Hanh arrived in the hospital with a tape of Plum Village chanting. Before she departed from Plum Village, I had given her that tape and asked her to play for her sister. So Sister Thich Nhat Hanh put the earphone on her sister, played the tape, and turned the volume up. Strangely enough, 3 minutes later, she became very still. She did not twist anymore. She did not emit any more sound of pain. And she remained in that state of being until she passed away. the sound of the chanting was able to touch the best thing in her. As someone who had gone to the temple to listen the chanting, to practice, the seed of practice, the seed of peace and spirituality is always there. But without someone helping to touch that seed will be covered up by layers of pain and fear. That is why for a dying person to recognize the wholesome seed in him or in her and to water this seed is a very important thing. If you are someone who take care of the dying person, you have to practice that. Recognize the seed of happiness in that person and water this seed by talking to them. And if possible, you can help him or her to get the inside, to touch the inside of no birth and no death. If in our lifetime we have a chance to sit down or to look deeply into the nature of no birth and no death, then in that moment you will not be victim of fear of non-being. You will not be the victim of confusion, because confusion and fear are the worst thing that can happen to us. And in that moment, if we have a few friends sitting close by, supporting us with their energy of mindfulness and concentration, it would be possible for us to die happily, peacefully, without regret, without fear at all. And that is why we should arrange so that we should not too busy to learn and put into practice this kind of teaching, which is the cream of the teaching and the practice. And if we have that seed of wisdom in us, that seed of insight in us, and then when the moment comes, we need only someone to gently touch that seed. And we feel that the physical pain in us will be reduced to the minimum. And the insight in us, the peace in us will help us to smile when we die. This is something possible. Practicing, getting the insight, and obtaining non-fear is what every one of us can do. The greatest gift you can make to someone is non-fear. Avalokiteshvara is a person known in the Buddhist circle as someone who has the capacity of offering non-fear. To study the Heart Sutra, to practice the Heart Sutra, not just recite it. You can touch the nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, neither being nor non-being. That is the practice that can bring non-fear to us. You might take up the practice in order to bring a relief to your pain, your sorrow, your suffering, to transform and to heal. But the greatest relief you can get is only when you are able to touch your true nature of no birth and no death, no coming and no going. The greatest relief. And touching that nature of no birth, no death, no coming, no going, you got the non-fear in you. You can smile and you can inspire other people, not to be fearful. And it is my desire that my friends who arrange so that they have enough time to enjoy the practice. While driving, while watering your vegetable garden, while walking from one building to another, looking at the trees, the cloud, we can always touch reality in such a way to discover the nature of no birth, no death, of everything. When you step on an autumn leaf with mindfulness, you can touch the true nature of no birth and no death of the leaf. And you can smile to the leaf. When you look at a flower, although the first impression that the flower is impermanent, but with deep looking, you can touch the nature of no birth and no death of the flower, and your true nature of no birth and no death.